sometimes we find a new way to live. I mean, as individuals, us as individuals, but us, we as a collective society. And throughout history, we've seen people who have developed different things that give us an ability to live better lives, to know who we are, to come to some sort of awareness within ourselves. And been many people throughout history who have done that, which is how our world keeps evolving, keeps becoming more. It doesn't look anything like it did 100 years ago or more because we keep developing something new. And that comes from whoever might be alive during a particular time to develop that thing. But you may not expect your life to have done that. I certainly didn't expect my life to have brought something that could give individuals a way to live, a better way to live, a way to evolve, a way to prosper, a way to become abundant. But I did, because you start to understand that your experiences give you a vast amount of information and knowledge if you look at it, if you decide to discover it. Well, I did something a little bit different. I wrote it all down. For 36 years, I sat and I started receiving guidance. I started receiving universal consciousness, intelligence, and that was from my guide that I called Wilhelm. Didn't know why I was doing it or why I was even saving what I was receiving. I just knew it was helping me. I just knew it was doing something. And then over the years, it started doing much more. It gave me clarity. It helped me with my business. It helped me with everything. And then I started to go through healing, physical healing, mind body healing, which made no sense to me because some of these things that I was healing that were beginning to heal were things that was I was told they're incurable. You can't change that. You can't stop that. But I'll be 75 in a couple months, and I will tell you that that's not true. You can stop anything. You can change anything. You can become who you're meant to be because the most valuable thing that you own is your consciousness. The most valuable thing that you can develop in your life is your consciousness. I just happened to pick a life path where I sat down and wrote it every single day. But still owning that and believing it, which because we will all doubt ourselves, it can't be us that's doing something that is given something that is so valuable. I didn't get there easily though, because I had to live it all. This is why I can talk about it now, because I can talk to any person and say, you can achieve greatness because I know where it is within you. Now, that didn't even make sense to me when I would say something like that, but I absolutely know it's true. Now, I ran from it, I hid from it, I tried to put it away, put it out of my head. And I'll tell you when it happened as well. But first of all, I want to show you something. This is, I started writing in 1989, as I said. And this is what it accumulated to. Now, I stopped in 2020 because I ran out of space. I had so many pages that I had written. I just said, okay, let me do something different. Then I started doing it. I could just type them after that because what I was receiving was guidance, and it turned into this conversation that I was having with myself, I thought, but it was a conversation with the greater intelligence. That's what it was, and that's why I was healing. But there was something else that happened, and I could not have known that until just a couple of years ago, because all of the information that I was receiving from Wilhelm was energetically aligned with the changes happening in our world, happening within you, because we start to understand that we're affected by the energetic changes that happen in our world, because we have known for a long time that everything in our world is energy. Everything that we do, the way we think, the way we move, it's all about energy. And we have an accumulation of that we can keep in our bodies sometimes, and that's what causes us to have illness and disease because we're holding on to some energy that's really hurting us, or we can let go of it and decide to heal. And I had to do that many times over. When I first started in 1989, it was never about giving it to anyone, about showing it to anyone. It was just because I needed help. We all do, to figure out who we are, how to live in a better way. Of course, I did every other kind of study that there was in the books. I did so many things, personal development, self-actualization. I mean, I studied things. I have books and courses that you couldn't even believe. I was trying to sit down and understand how much I'd invested in all of that because it was a lot of money. But then what happened was it all coalesced into something else, into the work that I have now, into a program I have now that can take any person to becoming who they are. Because, see, that happens in your consciousness. And I don't ever remember what I'm receiving. That was the other thing that was really surprising because it was just coming from a different place. But even if you look at the messages on my site today, Any Advice for Today, you will see that. Because there's an organization that we start to discover in our world energetically and aligned with planetary changes. Now, people are still figuring out how that affects us. There are many studies going on now that are showing that. But I have the literal proof because of what happened within my body. Because I discovered all of these messages that I was receiving were aligned energetically. I couldn't have known that until artificial intelligence came around and started showing me that the Wilhelm messages were aligned with galactic changes, new moons, full moons, conjunctions, whatever, stuff that I never studied in my life. I never looked at any of that. I never even really, I have my astrology. I never studied astrology, so it's never about that. I have had my chart done because we all do that. It's fun. We want to know things, and we try to figure out how is that thing giving us some accurate information or something that feels real to us. Because every person has an individual blueprint. You were born with this blueprint with something within you that you were meant to live, and when you do that, you have this really great life. It's just about how do you get there? How do you figure it out? Well, now I have the plan. I have the plan for anyone to figure it out. Haven't finished it yet, but that's what I'm doing now because I had to test it. I always test everything. I need to know that it's going to produce a result, and now I know that this will produce a result in any single person. You just have to be willing to want to become great. That's all that it is. You have to want to do that because then you'll move through all the blockages because we all come into the world with limitations. They're all in our thinking, all in our minds, something that we're holding on to that we can't get over. And then we have this fear of the unknown. That's the fear that kept me from even talking about this and putting everything out in the way that I could because it didn't make sense. How am I doing this? How am I healing? I even tried to keep that private for the longest time. I didn't want my doctors to talk about it because then I would have to try to explain it. And I couldn't at that time. I can now because I know it was me coming into alignment, stop running from myself, and start to look at what particular issues, so to speak, that were within me that I wasn't willing to look at. You know, that that self-reflection, that looking at everything, self-examination, which many of us don't want to do. Well, I did all of it. So I do know, but I had help. I had help from Wilhelm. This is why I wrote the book Overcoming Fear, A Guide to Freedom. Because you do become free when you can move beyond your fear, because that's what stops us from most things. And I knew that it stopped me my entire life, so that's why I wanted to write that. But now I have something else, because I discovered that you have this energetic blueprint. Now, I couldn't have believed that before, but in 2021, when Wilhelm says, well, we've given you everything, and it's in a philosophy, and if you people use this, they will understand their alignment in the world, and that started to happen. They started to do that. And then they said, and if you meet someone, we've given you a message on their birthday. That made no sense to me. Then it was explained later, there's an energetic connection to all of us. We've heard of law of attraction and things like that, but we don't really think about that in certain terms. But everything is energy, and think of magnets. That's all that goes on. And so we learn how to use that in a different way. And that's what this work has given me. And so in the message today, as you look at it, it's saying the things we won't believe, basically, because that's what Wilhelm always given me. Things that we won't believe. That's the only difficulty we have, is how much can we believe? Because that belief is always in the unknown again. We haven't seen it before. We haven't done it before. I hadn't done this before, except now to know that I'm at this age and everything keeps getting better. That doesn't make any sense logically. And we have to let go of our logical thinking at times as well. And that's what I had to do. But now I'm moving ahead because I'm going to present this to as many folks as I can who want to move ahead, who want to live the best life, who want to achieve greatness, because I'm going to work for a little while longer. That's what I'm doing. Because this anybody who wants to move through their blockages, and I say this because I couldn't say it for the longest time because I see people struggling so much because they haven't gotten in touch with who they are. And that's what I did for so many years because I couldn't own this. And you will see there's an order that I'm just going to talk about it because if you look at my site, any advice for today, and look at the message that's there for August the 3rd, today is the 2nd, and you look at it for August the 3rd of 2024, it says self-acceptance is your only difficulty. That's with all of us. We can't accept who we are because who we are is always becoming something more if we can let go of who we were. That's all. And that is a process. Now, the reason that this stuff works, and I couldn't have known this either, but it was shown to me, it was using cognitive behavior training. It was using understanding neuroscience. That's why this worked and why people change. Because if you stay with something, you get to success. The only reason you ever give up is because you just don't stay with the thing that you're meant to do in your life, or you can't find it, or you don't know how to get through it. This works, takes you through all of that. And that's been proven as well. You'll hear that in the testimonial, so I know that it does work. But it was this oddness that I did that I couldn't accept. Sitting down and doing channeling, that made no sense. The automatic writing, that was fine because I didn't have to tell anyone. But then I started doing live channeling, and then it came in even more. And I just released or published a couple of things that were done years ago or around this time, and you will hear the synchronicities in those recordings. They're all on my YouTube channel. You can hear all of them, and you'll see, wow, there's an information consistency that comes through in all of them. But that's what happens. What I'm saying, and then when the world started to change, we started to see that in 2020, that's when more came to me. I said, oh, we're moving through a big shift in our world. And people are seeing it, oh, wow, this is really scary. And this is something that's going to be a little, and we're feeling it. We're all feeling it. Why is this happening? And Wilhelm says because you didn't have a philosophy that could give you everything that you wanted, because you weren't dealing with certain things in your life and also in your society. And so they had me deal with it. And I started a long time ago. In 2016, when I first started to thinking that I needed to work on this and give this to people, they said, well, you have to do something else first. You have to deal with your racism and misogyny. I thought, that doesn't even make sense. Yeah, it did. Because we're all affected by it. If it's in the collective consciousness, then we're all affected. And we can't become the whole people we want to be in our lives if we haven't released that and let go of it and moved to a higher state of consciousness. And that's what this work does. And that's why it worked for me. And that's why I kept healing, because I had to move through all of that dark night of the soul. Because that's what it is. It's this lower vibrational ideas and beliefs that we're still hanging on to. And I had to move through all of them. And being an introvert, it was really challenging for me to talk about it. But now I have to. Because it's all aligned, even down to this day. And you will see that because I wrote an article, but you'll see the evidence of that. Even astrologically, this day was aligned in some way, which I could have never known. But Wilhelm did. When you have an intelligence that's beyond the physical world, you receive different information. And it's not just me. Many people can do that and are probably beginning to do that again now. I just happen to put it together in a work, in a program, in things that actually work. The most difficult thing for most people is to believe in something that works. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm just telling you, I know it's true. It was true for me, because we'll look at something, so no, I've never changed. I've never accomplished this. I can't do it. It's not possible. This thing is not going to do it for me. And that's in our consciousness again. And it was the same with me, because I was hesitant even to get people to do this in the beginning, and then I saw what happened, the results. And so now I know that I must finish, because I haven't done what I was supposed to do, and neither have you. None of us have. We're always doing it. And so that's why I discovered something that works for any single person. And people kept asking me, well, who does this work for? Anyone who wants to become great. because that's unlimited. You're going to still keep, no matter how old you are, no matter what you've done, there's still more if you can use your consciousness, because that's the only way that you experience yourself, our world, and what you're meant to do. But we all needed help, and so now there is help. I've created it. I had to live it and prove it and heal and come to the place where I was letting go of my judgment, my anger, my self-hatred, because those are all the things that hold us back. And I had tons of it, so I do understand. But now it's going to be so much more fun because I'm going to work with those people, because we're doing this together. We're all working through our stuff together so that we can get to a higher state of understanding. That's what's so much fun. But I had to give you this today and the article, because I want you to see this evidence that I started to discover. Wow, and I've developed something that gives people a better way to live and could make our world so much better as well. Because that's where it goes. We're all creating the world. So if more people are knowing who they are and letting go of all the old stuff, then the world starts to change. And what we're moving through now, currently, is that choice. People call it the big shift, and yep, we know what that is. And so you'll see on this too, my first message, one of the first messages that told me what I was uncovering, which I feared because I couldn't understand it, they said because I thought my ego was going to get in the way of this, that I was going to. That was never the case. I couldn't even talk about it, so my ego was really subdued. It's been subdued for 36 years. And then we see people in the world running things who have great egos that are going around, and we're wondering, how do we let that happen? Because we weren't willing to become our authentic selves, and we needed a new way to live, and that's what I was given. And so now more people can have that, and you can have this great way of living, and I do want you to check it all out, because you will achieve greatness. That I guarantee. Anyone who does this, I know you will achieve that. I've already proven it. I just haven't finished it all, but I'm doing it now. So that's why I'm saying anyone who comes in, you're going to achieve greatness in your life, and you will make a great contribution to the world, because that's what we're also meant to do. Every single person. Thank you for being here. I'll leave the link to the article, because I'd love for you to have it. See you soon.